Article Aftermath number one seemed to be a pretty good success, and so I'm going to continue my fortune by ripping off Kelly Locke and Doug Zeef even more. Um, Eventually, I plan on just taking their names and going to school where they go, and then integrating my way into their family and possibly the will of the Locke and Zeef family. But for now, I'm just going to do Article Aftermath number two. This week, I did the deck that I really couldn't come up with a good name with. I called it Dark Squishy because it just has a lot. I mean, it's really just a lot of dark things squished together. A couple years ago at a YCS that I was doing really well with, but then kind of not tanked. I basically quit when I was like 7-1. Long story, but don't worry about it. It had Armageddon Knights and some Necrogarnas and all the good stuff, but now with like we had synchros back then because I ran Brionic and Trishula, but now with Exceeds, obviously this deck is a lot different. I didn't get as much feedback as I thought it was going to. Seemed like sometimes my more simple decks, like a Samurai deck that's already like a legitimate archetype or strategy, those seem to be more popular. But I really like this deck, so I was really happy to write on it. I clarified basically everything in the comments. One guy did talk about Dimensional Alchemist. I actually tried that card out, and it's some things are just kind of a matter of preference of what you really want to do versus. Much more often than not, I would want to summon an Armageddon Knight off of Summoner Monk or a Dark Grepher, and just to use my normal summon, it'd normally be like Mask Druid Drew or Mask Chameleon or Snow or something to bounce back to my hand. It just like they were, I guess, just with the strategies I was doing. It just seemed another piece to add in that I didn't really want to. Another thing I was talking, someone mentioned, and this is actually a good point, how I put in Upstart Goblin instead of Trade In. I didn't really test the Sky Scourge nor Ross because I can't say that word, Norly. I call it Noroas, but then again, I call Brotherhood of the Fire Fist Bear like Doobie because I just don't know words. So that was actually before I put that fifth Dark in, and with 4, there was no good proportion of trade-ins. With 3, I just saw it too much, and didn't seem that good of a card. 1, I'd never see it, and 2, it wasn't like I think with 5, or even if I had another level 8 monster in here, I could probably get away with adding 2. But I really didn't like trade-in. I would pitch things with Necrogardna or or Dealings or Grepher or something like that, so it wasn't a huge problem. But I could totally see Upstart Goblin being taken out for the trade-ins. Like it's not. Perhaps I didn't get good hands, or I didn't draw it in an optimal manner, but that's not really a big deal. I actually explained everything in there. There was a few combos that I was talking about. Like there is the OTK with just 2 cards. I mean, granted, you do need a healthy graveyard to get that off the ground, but considering your deck mills and dark monsters and etc., that's not really a big problem. The extra deck, now the format's changing. Stuff like Crimson Blader, I mean, dragons are a thing. I refuse to call any deck Dragon Rulers anymore because literally, out of the 24 possible Dragon Rulers you can play, only 4 are legal. It's not like, oh, they hit Go Up Bulb and you can still play other things. So it's like Plant Synchro, la la la. No, like when like almost 85% of archetypes cards are not legal for play. It's just hard for me to call it as such. That's just different nomenclature. I'm not saying, again, I'll say for the 10th time, I'm not saying the dragons as a deck are dead, and there's what's it called? The Mythic Dragons? Yeah, Mythic Dragons are still a thing because Felgrand is really good. I mean, Drak Connection is actually a card that could be useful, or Burial from a Different Dimension, or man, there's just a lot of different things you could change about it. Mostly for the extra deck. Let me get back to that for a second. As I was saying, Crimson Blader may not be the most necessary, and same with Colossal Fighter. Abyss Dweller, that's good against Mermails, etc. Tachyon Dragon is preference. You could run Heliopolis over that. Utopia is preference. Key Beetle is preference. There's not really too much to protect in here, but again, I was trying to cover a lot of bases, and the things I went into most. I mean, I made about 10 things on a consistent basis, and then I just threw in other things. I was like, well, this would be good in this situation, and it again, like you can easily you can mix and match. A lot of times I have deck lists that are pretty set, but then like extra decks and side decks are so varied, especially depending on if you're at a local or what you see in your area or what you were expecting to see. Like I remember there was this regional in Detroit that I went to and just got word out. It was like last May or something. It was like everyone was playing Inzectors, like literally everyone. I was like, I could put Veilers in, and I wasn't going to, and then I decided to, and like I can't even tell you how many times I was like, if I didn't have Veiler, I would have just lost so many games. I like Stardust Spark Dragon better than Thunder Dragon. Thunder Dragon, Stardust, yeah, Stardust Dragon. That's what it's called. So I'd go for that. Zombie Stein is also a really good card in here. Half the time I used it just to just as a negate, and the other half you'd use it to run over things, like because it's kind of hard to do both because it goes to defense, so you won't really see it too much utility. The story about Monopoly is a true story, so don't play Monopoly with your friends if you aren't prepared to at least hate them a little bit afterwards. I didn't have any secret things in here I want to talk about, but it's actually going to keep it pretty short because I explained myself pretty well in the article and there weren't too many questions or comments afterwards. So thanks for bearing with yet another article aftermath, and hopefully the third one will be even more interesting. I'm not sure if that's possible, but we'll see.